How to conduct environmental impact studies. Environmental impact studies, EIS, are essential for assessing the potential effects of a project or development on the environment. Conducting a thorough EIS helps in making informed decisions that minimize negative impacts and ensure compliance with environmental regulations. Here's a guide on how to conduct an environmental impact study. Define the scope of the study. The first step in conducting an EIS is to define the scope of the study. This involves outlining the project's purpose, objectives, and potential environmental impacts. Determine which aspects of the environment, such as air quality, water resources, wildlife, and vegetation, are likely to be affected. Clearly defining the scope ensures that the study is focused and relevant. Conduct a baseline environmental assessment. Before evaluating the potential impacts of a project, conduct a baseline environmental assessment to understand the current state of the environment. This includes gathering data on existing conditions, such as air and water quality, soil composition, and biodiversity. This baseline data serves as a reference for comparing future changes. Identify potential environmental impacts. Identify and evaluate the potential environmental impacts of the proposed project. This involves analyzing how the project might affect air and water quality, soil, wildlife, and human health. Consider both direct and indirect impacts, as well as short-term and long-term effects. Engage with stakeholders, including local communities and experts, to gather insights and concerns. Evaluate impact significance. Assess the significance of the identified impacts based on their magnitude, duration, and likelihood. Determine which impacts are significant enough to require mitigation measures. This evaluation helps prioritize which impacts need to be addressed and guides the development of strategies to minimize or eliminate negative effects. Develop mitigation measures. For significant impacts, develop mitigation measures to reduce or offset the negative effects. Mitigation strategies may include altering project plans, implementing best practices, or providing compensatory actions such as habitat restoration or pollution control. Ensure that these measures are practical, effective, and feasible within the project's constraints. Prepare the environmental impact report. Compile the findings of the study into an environmental impact report, EIR. The report should include a detailed description of the project, baseline environmental conditions, identified impacts, significance evaluations, and proposed mitigation measures. Ensure that the report is clear, comprehensive, and accessible to stakeholders and decision-makers. Conduct public consultations. Engage with the public and stakeholders through consultations and public hearings. Present the findings of the EIS and solicit feedback on the potential impacts and proposed mitigation measures. Public consultations help address community concerns, gather additional insights, and ensure transparency in the decision-making process. Review and revise. Based on feedback from public consultations and additional analysis, review and revise the EIR as needed. Address any concerns or suggestions raised by stakeholders and make necessary adjustments to the mitigation measures. Ensure that the final report accurately reflects the project's potential impacts and the proposed strategies to manage them. Submit for approval. Submit the final EIR to the relevant regulatory authorities for review and approval. The approval process may involve further scrutiny, additional conditions, or requirements. Ensure that all necessary documentation and supporting information are provided to facilitate a smooth review process. Monitor and report. Once the project is approved and implemented, continue to monitor the environmental impacts and the effectiveness of the mitigation measures. Regular reporting ensures compliance with environmental regulations and allows for timely adjustments if unforeseen issues arise. Monitoring helps ensure that the project meets its environmental commitments and minimizes long-term impacts. Conclusion. Conducting an environmental impact study involves defining the study scope, assessing baseline conditions, identifying and evaluating potential impacts, and developing mitigation measures. Preparing a comprehensive environmental impact report, engaging with stakeholders, and adhering to regulatory requirements are essential steps in the process. Ongoing monitoring and reporting ensure that projects maintain environmental standards and address any emerging issues.